This video is about having one focus per day. And what that means is you have one thing that you just have to get done each day. One thing that's the most important thing to get done each day. And this is important mainly for the reason of prioritization. You need to be able to prioritize ruthlessly and really understand what's important in your career, in your business, in every individual project you're working on, and how important each of those projects are in the grand scheme of things. And it's true, this is a lot of information to handle. If you're not used to prioritizing things and being able to judge how important various things are, you can end up wasting a lot of time by making things that aren't that important seem very important and investing a lot of time. So the way you should think about how you're doing your planning, but also your day-to-day, is as in terms of investment. And people think of investments, they think of money. But what you're really investing is mostly time, but also energy. And the way to think about it is you've got two forms of time. You've got time where you're in your peak emotional energy state, meaning that whatever you do, you're going to do it at the highest level. You have full access to all your mental resources. There's going to be other times when you're tired, when you're worn out, when you just don't feel like reading or doing any work. That's kind of downtime. You can't do much during that time. You might be able to listen to an audiobook or a podcast or some audio notes you made, but for the most part, you're not going to be able to get much out of that time. So most of what you're investing is this peak time where you can get anything done. You have full access to your mental resources, and that's very precious time. You can expand that amount of time by doing things we talked about earlier, focusing on your diet, your exercise, making sure that stuff is keyed in. But you've got to have the ability to prioritize what's the most important thing each day. Maybe you think, well, there's a lot of things I need to get done each day. The issue is you need to find the bottlenecks in your business or in your profession or whatever major project you're working on. Meaning, if you just fix those bottlenecks, those key points where everything is slowed down afterwards, if that problem isn't fixed or everything is stopped and waiting until that one thing is fixed, what are those critical bottlenecks? And your main priority for each day, it should be eliminating those bottlenecks. Sometimes it's a short-term bottleneck, sometimes it's a long-term bottleneck. But the key is, once you know what the most important thing is, then you can visualize that. And the visualization process is important because visualization gives you the ability to get practice doing something that you've never done before. Athletes use visualization a lot in order to practice doing something before they do it for the first time. And so by visualizing it, you can visualize the end goal, and doing that is going to help you get motivated. But visualizing the process helps eliminate friction. So what happens when your brain is trying to figure out how to do something new is it's constantly doing mini searches. So it's trying to figure out, okay, what should I do next? Or how do I figure out this mini problem? And then go to the next mini problem and the next mini problem, and go step by step by step until you finish a goal or you finish going through some process. So what happens is when you visualize that in your mind, you can go over those mini decisions and those little bits of problem solving in your head, so that when you recognize them and you experience them in real life later on in the day, there's not going to be as much friction. You don't need to put in as much cognitive effort, expend as much cognitive energy in order to make those decisions and do what you need to do. So it's going to naturally flow more. It's going to take you from feeling like you've never done something before to feeling like maybe you've done it once or twice. You're just going to feel more familiar with whatever you're doing. And often the things that are most important to do are also the things that are going to be more complicated, or the things that we're not as sure how to do. That's part of why we avoid taking action in the first place, because we have a lot of fear associated with taking that action. We fear that we won't be able to do it, won't know how to do it, we have no idea how long it's going to take. And so by visualizing, you give yourself a sense of certainty of, okay, I can do this. This is something that Maybe I haven't done it in real life for the first time, but I visualized it. And emotionally, you're just going to feel more comfortable. You're not going to have as much anxiety or nervousness around it. And what that means is you're reducing that negative feedback loop that you're associating with taking that most important action. So visualization just gives your brain on an emotional level the feeling of you can do that thing. It's not going to be that difficult, and that improves the feedback loop. So now you're anticipating success instead of anticipating failure or anticipating having a very tough time. So what that means is when you go to finally take that action, you're thinking about it, your brain's going to tend to go in the direction of, okay, I'm going to do that, versus the direction of, oh, I'll put that off till later, because subconsciously you're associating pain to it. So by visualizing, you get rid of that, and you get to the point where you feel more confident about taking that action, and you're a lot less likely to put it off. Another thing is eliminating costly decision making. So decision making doesn't just take time, it also can overload your working memory. And we talked about earlier how your working memory can take and all those hormones that are released when you go into fight or flight mode, when you overload your working memory, can take anywhere from half an hour to several hours for your hormones get back down to a neutral homeostatic level. So what that means is you could be wasting hours of your day just because you're getting yourself in a pickle where you just don't know what decision to make. You don't know what to do next because you don't know what's important. As long as you know what's important, as long as you're able to prioritize, you're able to access those priorities whenever you need them, you're going to be able to eliminate that costly decision making. You're going to be able to eliminate that overwhelm. You're going to be able to eliminate all that wasted time when your hormones are just out of whack and there's really nothing you can do about it. Your brain just cannot operate at maximum efficiency when you're in that biochemical state, when those hormones are running through your body. So it's really important to set this up as a simple practice to start out taking more action and building the habit of taking action. Part of what you're going to notice over time as you implement this over the next few weeks and months is that as you take more action, you just get better at it. You're not going to need a lot of these habits or these rituals as much because you're going to develop a confidence in yourself where if there's something that you want to go solve, there's a thing that you want to go do, you're going to believe more and more in yourself every single day that you can just go and do it. So a lot of what stops us from taking action is fear. And so as you build up confidence by taking more action each day, it builds on itself. So that's why people that are really great at taking action, they're always great at doing it. They're always taking action. And that's because they've built up a really positive feedback loop where they get really excited about actually doing things, about actually creating things. And they feel good and they anticipate feeling good each time they think about taking action. Whereas people who don't take action procrastinate. It's not like every once in a while they take a lot of action. It's that they're consistently in almost every aspect of their life, they procrastinate, or in a certain area of their life, they always procrastinate. And so it's really important to start with small habits like this. You may be thinking, well, that's not practical long term or even short term. And if it isn't, that's fine. The important thing is you're building a thought habit. And once you build that thought habit, it starts to run automatically. It starts to shape how you think. And it becomes a routine where you no longer have to expend a lot of mental energy, cognitive effort in order for it to keep on going. Great plugin to use that I use is called Momentum. And what it does is it's for Chrome, and it might be for other browsers by the time you're hearing this, is you just type in, there's a single line that says, what's the most important thing to get done today? You just type it in there, and every time you open a new tab in your browser, it's going to show you what's the most important thing. Also has they find really great photographs to put in the background. So it's a great plugin to get that's going to constantly remind you of what's most important. And those reminders are very, very important. Spaced repetition, as we know, is very, very important. So having a single thing that you're constantly reminding yourself of can be very valuable.